Thank you very much, fellow Africans, and welcome to our today's episode of the Change for African campaign. And so, fellow Africans, it's on Thursday, and on Thursday, it's all about our fourth pillar of the Change for African campaign, where we discuss on matters to do with the living standards of the people of Africa, the living standards of our African people, and the African society in general. Because as we have tried to have some previous discussion about the living standards of the African people, still there is still a problem, and there's still more room that is required for us to be able to improve, because our people in Africa still live in very dilapidated conditions. And remember, defining about the questions of living standards, we actually refer to so many things. It comes with a lot of things. We speak about the health status, the education systems, the infrastructure, because this infrastructure is the one that is able to make these people perhaps move from one place to another. How it is, does it facilitate, is it requisite for people to be able to do 1, 2, 3? So those are some of the things we look at. And so, fellow Africans, today being our episode number 89, to help us exemplify our 89th episode will be the SDG target 3.3, all about that we should be ending or end epidemics of major diseases by 2030. The full version of that key target is all about that by 2030, and the epidemics of AIDS, end epidemics of AIDS by 2030. Tuberculosis, malaria, neglected tropical diseases, and combat hepatitis, water-borne diseases, other communicable diseases, all that. So it's all about these tropical diseases and these diseases that actually they do attack our African people very easily. And you realize most of the reasons as to why our people perhaps they actually suffer from this so much is because of the living standards, where these people live. These are some of the things that are leading to that, how they in their houses, how the structure of these houses and the living conditions, the environment they are in. These are some of the things we speak about under living standards, because these are the living standards that our people live will define how healthy our people will be. So if we still have such worrying situations and kind of diseases in Africa, it means that still the living standards of African people are not up to standards. So a few quick statistics about this is that over 65% of the global HIV and AIDS, actually in Africa, domiciled in Africa. These are cases that are being reported, and it's actually a fact that the sub-Saharan Africa, this is a trend that is live and well, and it is a key target that still is yet to be reached, and with that a lot of consciousness and a lot of knowing that we are facing this calamity. What can we do to be able to make sure that we are able to get ourselves out of this? What are the structures, the conditions we are putting ourselves into to be able to rescue ourselves from these worrying statistics? And also that over 90% of the global malaria death occur in Africa. That is a factor that is also live and well. That it's a factor that it should be worrying, it should be disturbing, because over 90% of the global death of malaria, and I haven't got the statistics, but then if you go into the full statistics, you realize that these are so many people that annually die in Africa due to these tropical diseases and due to this kind of diseases. What is the reason as to this? The reason is because the living standards of these people live in very destitute conditions, that they're not able to be able perhaps do what is needed for them to be able to preventive measures are yet to be put in place that can be able to secure this population from such conditions. That over 90% of the global death related to malaria actually occurring in Africa. Worrying situation in Africa. And then many of the tropical diseases, of course, as we have mentioned so far, many of these tropical diseases, they still take place in Africa. And these are diseases that actually they do claim a lot of lives, across the globe. But then Africa, the burden is on Africa, because Africa is a continent that still we are actually not yet ready to take the journey of having a progressive Africa, whereby the lives of our people are taken into, are very serious taken care of. And this needs some sense structures to be put in place, and more so we speak about that governance is a software development, that once we are able to alienate ourselves or to be able to have a progressive a progressive action in that particular area, it means that is development, because we're getting away from that condition. So that problem, then we'll be achieving that key target, that is development. And we have said so far that governance is the soft of development. So once we are yet to have good governance systems in place that can be able to rescue ourselves from such, then it means there's still a problem, because now we need people who will understand that this is what our people are going through. Then what can we do to be able to rescue our people from this condition? So this needs some new minds in place, I believe so, that is why the Change for Africa campaign is a movement aimed at civilizing the African youth, because these are the new minds we are speaking about, that when they come in place, then we are going to have a progressive society. So these are things that are, remember, health is the foundation of human dignity, productivity, and human development. All these things, because and they fall under the living standards. The status of our health, in terms of how people are living in different places, it is now incumbent upon us, the young blood of Africa, to see on how we are going to now get away from the speaking part of it. Because remember, this is another nation thing, the SDG goals, and meaning it's a global thing, but we are Africans and the Africa is our business. Now, apart from now, how can we be the solution, the solution to this problem that we are facing, or the solution to such goals that have been put in place by the United Nations, because it's a global thing. But then in Africa, what are we doing? Now we need to see what are the practical things you can be able to do apart now from the field that has been written since 2015. And remember, it's being targeted that by 2030, they should have at least been able to achieve that. So